السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة المتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, we're starting today, inshallah, the next chapter, chapter number 13, which is in regards to cleanliness. Imam Haddad, he says, you must take care of your outward and inward cleanliness. For the one who is completely clean becomes inwardly and in his spirit a spiritual angel, although in his body and outward form he remains a physical human being. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, religion is based on cleanliness and God is clean and likes cleanliness. So he brings two different hadith here. One is that at-tuhur shatr al-iman, that religion is based on cleanliness, that cleanliness is part of iman, is part of faith, is part of the religion, and the fact that Allah himself, he is tayyib, he is clean and he loves cleanliness. He loves cleanliness. So Imam Haddad, when he speaks about cleanliness, he is focusing on the fact that cleanliness does not refer to just the outwardly, in terms of making sure there's no impurity upon our clothes, our body, or anything of the sort, but rather it also focuses on the inward. So both outward and inward should be both clean. As one should be. So he speaks firstly about the inward, and he's going to explain a few points about the inward cleanliness. He says, inward cleanliness is achieved by purifying the soul from vile traits of character such as pride, ostentation. Ostentation is essentially showing off, doing a deed other than Allah, other than for the sake of Allah. Envy, love of the world, and other similar things. And by adorning it with noble traits of character such as humility, modesty, sincerity, generosity, and so forth. The true nature of these and the way to rid oneself of vile traits and acquire noble ones were recorded by the Imam Ghazali in the second half of the Ihya. Know this and make use of it. Now, there are many traits that one should try to get rid from their heart, such as the ones he's already mentioned: having love for the world, pride, ostentation, envy, and so forth. All of these things, these are chapters on their own in terms of how to deal with them, what causes them, and how to get rid of them. But he refers us to the work of Imam Ghazali in his Ihya, the revival of religious sciences. So a person should try and read those portions. I'm sure there's many lectures and classes on it, so indulge in that. As for the outward cleanliness, this is the cleanliness that many of us are a bit more familiar with. The outward cleanliness, when there's dirt on our clothes or on the body. Okay, so he's going to speak about the outward cleanliness now. As for the outward cleanliness, this depends on avoiding transgressions and keeping to obedience. Something so beautiful he says here. You know, he doesn't really, when he speaks about cleanliness, he's not talking about it in the tangible sense of seeing dirt. That's the beauty of it. He focuses further that outward cleanliness also includes our actions, our speech, things that we do and say, that to make sure that we do not transgress anyone's rights, that we are not disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, many of us don't think of cleanliness in that same manner and sticking to obedience. So he continues to say, the one who adorns his outward with perseverance in good works and his inward with taking on praiseworthy attributes, he has completed his cleanliness. Otherwise, he would only have a share of its proportionate to his remoteness from reprehensible traits and acts and nearness to good ones. Meaning that a person is only as clean as much effort he makes in both of the outward and inward cleanliness in those affairs. Among the divisions of outward cleanliness are those things indicated in the law meaning the Sharia, such as removing excessive hair and nails, for instance, and dirt, and purification from acts which necessitate the ritual ablution and impurities. Amongst these are the removal of pubic hair, depilation. Depilation is the removing of hair, or shaving of the armpits, clipping the moustache, and the paring of the fingernails. It is recommended to start with the right index finger. So this, when it comes to clipping the nails, he's going to mention as to how what's recommended. Start with the right index finger, carry on to the right little finger, then to the left little finger, through to the left thumb, and end with the right thumb. As for the feet, one begins with the right little toes and ends with the left little toe, in the same order as washing the toes during the ritual ablution, wudu. So he's been speaking about how to clip the nails. He goes on to say, it is reprehensible to delay all these things for more than 40 days. So the actual ruling in Sharia is that a person should not allow their nails and the pubic hair and so forth to grow longer for a period of more than 40 days. One is considered not clean and dirty in that regards. Other such things are the removal with water of the dirt which accumulates in wrinkles, such as the mucus in the eyes, the dirt in the nostrils, and the use of a toothpick to remove the remains of food from between the teeth. You must clean your mouth with the siwak, and it is better if this be of the arak wood, and it is strongly recommended before initiating any act of worship. So it is a sunnah that before any act of worship that person does do the miswak. There is a difference of opinion in regards to before salah, should you do the miswak or not, and when to, but we'll leave that for another time, inshallah. You must also clean your clothes with water whenever they become dirty, in moderation and without imitating those who live in luxury. So the aim of being clean isn't to be living like a king or anything of the sort, but rather, as we mentioned before, Allah loves cleanliness and likes those who are clean. As a matter of fact, on that topic, there's in the Quran Allah mentions that He loves the people who are pure. So when this verse was revealed, this was at the time when the Masjid Khubaeb was first built. When the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Mecca to Medina, along the way he stopped at Khubaeb and he built the masjid there, and you still can go there, visit Masjid Khubaeb. After that, the revelation of the Quran was revealed in regards to a masjid being built on taqwa, and Allah mentions that He loves people who are clean. So the people asked, look, why does Allah say this? The Prophet ﷺ inquired as to why did Allah say that Allah loves the people that surround this masjid and loves the people who are clean. And upon investigation, he found that these people, after relieving themselves from toiletry needs, they would clean themselves with water. They would clean themselves with water, and that was the reason as to why Allah says that Allah loves the people who are pure. So it goes to show that cleanliness has a high status in Islam. Hence why Imam Haddad brings this chapter here. You must also clean your clothes with water whenever they become dirty, in moderation and without imitating those who live in luxury. So as I said before, the aim isn't to be living like kings or anything of the sort. Is there to be clean for the sake of Allah, as Allah loves it. And the Prophet ﷺ also loved cleanliness. Other sunnahs related to cleanliness are the oiling and combing of the beard, cleaning all the hair, using kuhl 3 times in each eye, using perfume abundantly, for it masks unpleasant odors, whether human or other. This is firmly recommended for the Friday prayer, that means the Jum'ah prayer, and other gatherings of Muslims. Take into consideration, and just pause it for a moment, take into consideration the fact that the Prophet ﷺ said that even if somebody has just eaten and their breath smells like a garlic or something of the sort, something strong, then they shouldn't come to the masjid, they should wash their mouth. So cleanliness goes a long way. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ liked it and used it abundantly in reference to perfume. Sometimes the shine of perfume would be seen on the parting of his hair. This he did so that people would imitate him, for his body was naturally fragrant. He was in no need of perfume, and they used to collect his perspiration to perfume themselves with it. It is good for men to use perfume which has strong scent but no color, and for women to do the opposite. He brings out a good point, a very important point, which is that the Prophet ﷺ used to wear perfume even though his own sweat was something which was considered clean. This was a miracle of the Prophet ﷺ, and this was something that was only to the Prophet, specific to the Prophet ﷺ, that his sweat was clean, and it was something which was very fragrant, to the point that the Sahaba used to actually collect it and use it as perfume. But even despite that, the Prophet ﷺ would still wear perfume to teach us and others as to how we should emulate the Prophet ﷺ and how dear cleanliness is to the Prophet ﷺ. Beware of all impure substances. If soiled by any of them which is damp, wash it out as soon as possible. If you become impure, what we term as junub, from sexual intercourse, perform the great ablution immediately. For the junub, meaning the impure person, is forbidden from the presence of God, which is why he is forbidden to stay in the mosque or recite the Quran. So just a little pointer here. Anyone who has ejaculated, has indulged in sexual intercourse, and there is of course some detail to this, that one is considered in need of a ritual bath, what we call the ghusl, where a person will have to follow the rules of ghusl, and not until a person has done the ghusl, a person cannot come into the masjid, a person cannot recite the Quran, even if it's done by heart. So it's extremely important. That's the importance of cleanliness in Islam. That a person cannot carry out certain acts of obedience to Allah unless they're in a certain state, and this, in this case, state of purity. It is given on textual authority that the angels do not enter a house where there is a junub. So junub is that person who requires a ghusl as mandated by Islamic law. And when the angels go, the devils come from every direction. Beware of eating or sleeping while junub, for you would thus expose yourself to many problems. If it is not possible for you to make an immediate ghusl, then the least you can do is to wash your private parts and perform the wudu. Just one other point is that whilst he's not talking about this from a legal perspective, that you cannot do all of these things without ghusl. Of course, like I said before, things like praying salah inside the masjid, praying salah at all, or even recitation of the Quran, even from memory, you cannot do unless you've had a ghusl. But things like eating, drinking, you can do, but it's always preferred that a person does the ghusl as soon as possible. Why delay it? You're in a state of ritual impurity, so you shouldn't delay it any further. You should renew your ritual ablution, meaning wudu, before each obligatory prayer, and strive always to remain in a state of ritual purity. Renew your wudu whenever you break it, for wudu is the weapon of the believer, and when the weapon is evidence, the enemy dares not approach. He brings another important point, that in the hadith we know that wudu is a weapon, and it's something which helps the believer. We know this from the hadith. And he says, look, just like a weapon, if you have a weapon with you at all times, ready to be used, then no enemy will dare attack you, because they know you have a weapon with you and you can safeguard yourself. And the same goes for wudu. You are less likely to be swayed by the whispers of shaitan whilst in a state of wudu. Imam Haddad goes on to say, a man once came to Shaykh Abu al-Hasan al-Shadhili and asked him to teach him alchemy. So alchemy is with a science with chemicals, essentially it's chemistry. Would stick to alchemy. The Sheikh promised to teach him, but only after he had stayed with him for a year, and on condition that each time he broke his wudu, he renewed it and prayed 2 rakats. At the end of the year, the man went to draw water from a well, and the bucket came up full of gold and silver. He poured it back into the well, for he had no desire for them whatsoever. Then he went to the Sheikh and told him. The Sheikh replied, you have now become all alchemy, and he made him a summoner to God. The moral of the story is, and Allah knows best of the story, but what he's trying to put forward is the idea that a person is in such a state of ritual pureness that Allah has brought things to him, and it has an effect on his daily affairs. The fact that he's constantly in wudu has an effect on his daily affairs, and it brings this story as an example. Pray 2 rakats each time you make wudu. If you cannot remain continuously ritually pure, try always to be so when sitting in the mosque, reciting the Quran, acquiring knowledge, and sitting for dhikr, as well as during all other devotions. So he mentions about praying 2 rakats after wudu, reason because Bilal radiallahu anh, he had a habit of doing so, and the Prophet also mentioned that he could hear the footsteps of Bilal radiallahu anh in Jannah, and upon inquiring why, Bilal replied that one of the things I do is after doing wudu, I would pray 2 rakats. So try to make a habit of doing so. When you make wudu or ghusl, beware of confining yourself to what is obligatory. You should take care to perform all the relevant sunnahs and properties in the manner that has been handed down to you regarding his ghusl and wudu. May peace be upon him. Another important point made by Imam Haddad, that when we do wudu and ghusl, sometimes we miss out many of the sunnahs and we only stick to the bare minimum of what's required by Sharia, Islamic law. For example, in wudu, according to the Hanafi fiqh, there are 4 things that are mandatory: the washing of the face, the washing of the arms, the wiping of the head, 1/4 of the head, and washing of both feet. In ghusl, in Hanafi fiqh, you have 3 things which are mandatory: the gargling of the mouth, the putting water into the nostrils and cleaning the nose, and washing the whole body and not leaving a single part dry. Now, a person can stick to the basics and technically their wudu and ghusl will be done, but Imam Haddad is saying don't do that. You're missing out so many sunnahs, you're missing out so many virtues. Go on to do more, and you'd find that if you do your wudu properly, if you do your ghusl properly according to the sunnah, it'll have a domino effect on your worship as well. And really do try it. For example, one wudu being one sunnah wudu is the amount of water the Prophet ﷺ would use for wudu. He would use approximately 3/4 of a litre. So try doing that and see what effect it has on your ibadah. You're more conscious of your ibadah itself. Take the example of a boxing match. A person doesn't just walk into a boxing ring and decides to fight, but they train outside of the boxing ring before the match. Same thing with our salah. Sometimes our salah, we find some level of neglect in our salah, or there's not as much devotion in our salah. It's because outside of salah we haven't put the effort in. Outside of salah, reference to our istinja, how we relieve ourselves in the sunnah in regard to that, our ghusl, our wudu. Perform these with the sunnahs, you'll see a knock-on effect, and your devotion will increase, inshallah. You should perform ghusl every now and then with the intention of maintaining cleanliness. Even if you are not junub, meaning if you're considered clean, you're not in a state of impurity, still do ghusl so that you can be clean. Ghusl on Friday is recommended in the sunnah for those who attend the Friday prayer, and you should perform this, which should suffice for cleanliness, but under some circumstances and for some people. When you finish your wudu or ghusl, then there's a dua to be read: Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluh. There's another dua to be read: Allahumma ja'alni min at-tawwabin wa ja'alni min al-mutatahhirin. And in the hadith it mentions that anyone that recites this dua, then he can go through the 8 doors of Jannah, they're open for him, and he can go into any of the doors of Jannah that he wishes. And upon this, Imam Haddad finishes the section. Essentially, the section was, in summary, about cleanliness, but when he categorizes cleanliness, he speaks about cleanliness from a few perspectives. Number 1, the inward cleanliness and the outward cleanliness. So the inward cleanliness means that taking away all of these vile traits from our hearts, such as malice, envy, hate, and so forth, and replacing them with good traits: generosity, humbleness, and so forth. Then the other aspect of cleanliness is the outward aspect, and in that he categorizes into 2 parts. The first outward cleanliness is making sure that our tongue and our actions are all in accordance to the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, we've not done anything that transgresses the rights of another person. Number 2, the cleanliness as we understand it, that we're free from any kind of impurity. And that was a summary of this chapter. Alhamdulillah. Upon that we finish. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.